How's that sound?
Looks about right.
Don't need to be perfect. I want it to feel like I'm in the room by myself.
Yeah.
Let's try one.
Scott, welcome to the Awards Tour podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, first of all, congratulations. We're just hours away from the subject of your film, Bruce Springsteen's Delivery from Nowhere, being honored at
Yes.
the gala.
Yeah, what a great night that was.
And I think it would be, we're definitely going to talk about that, but I think it's strange to think about you as just a fan of this property to now have Bruce Springsteen as someone that you get to kind of like rub elbows with all the time. So
Kind of remarkable.
I'd be curious, what was it like sort of bookending this moment with him now that the film has had such a great reception?
Yeah, it was gratifying. It was heartening. I mean, to see Bruce in a room full of our peers, who kind of stands alone, to not only play the song for which he won an Oscar, Streets of Philadelphia, but then to play a song from Nebraska, which is my film is about the making of the album Nebraska, was really, really powerful. And to see him fill this room with so much warmth and passion, and to see that reflected back to him from the audience was truly incredible and kind of like a pinch me moment. Quite honestly, I didn't expect Bruce to really support the movie as much as he has publicly, and both in Europe and the UK and here in the United States. So I'm so gratified. It's been such, even though it's an incredibly hard year for me on a number of personal reasons, professionally, it's just been a dream.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that because, yeah, there's a little life imitating art with your journey with it, with a lot of the folks involved in it. But let's go back a little bit to how this film sort of came to be, starting with the incredible book that it's based off of. But I'm just curious if you or Scott Stuber, anybody has given a call to Mark Maron to know how integral he was in the whole journey to be like, hey guy, I kind of got a job thanks to your podcast a little bit.
Yeah,
Not
you know,
directly.
it's remarkable.
Yeah.
It all
But
goes
yeah,
back to Mark in some way, because I've been on his show in the past. He's spoken about my movies kind of at length when I'm not even on the show, and then for me to go on the show was really quite gratifying. But it was hearing Warren Zanes's interview where Eric Robinson and Ellen Goldsmith Vane came to know about the book. They read the book. They thought I was the right person to adapt and direct it. I didn't really know them well at all. They reached out to me via email and simply said, are you a fan of Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska? And I wrote back, who isn't? It's one of the great albums of the last 50 years. And that began a conversation between Warren and me that ended up with my being with Warren on the Jersey Shore, meeting Bruce Springsteen and his manager, Jon Landau. Thankfully, it was a quick yes from Bruce because he said no to every film overture since 1986. So that was exciting. Then I had to write it. And then I had to direct it. And then I had to cut it and get it out into the world, because it's daunting when you make a film about Bruce Springsteen, because so many people have ownership over Bruce and they all have an idea about what they want the film to be. Then you have the hurdle of making a film in a very well-trod genre. I mean, I've done that a few times, whether it's the gangster genre with my film Black Mass, or Hostiles, which is a Western. So I haven't made it easy for myself because there's a lot of great music films. But I wanted to make this because it doesn't really fall into easy categorization, and certainly not into the music biopic, because it isn't a biopic. It's only a few short months in Bruce's life. Shoot, really painful few months of Bruce's life, and really as much about his mental health struggles as it is about making music. So that was really why I wanted to tell the story, apart from the fact that my father, who helped shape my musical interest from a young age, introduced me to Bruce Springsteen through Nebraska. So it had a lot of personal resonance for me. And the album Nebraska came to me at just the right time. I was a teenager who was, unsure of his place in the world, as most teens are, disaffected, disillusioned, and came to me at the right time. And here I am making a movie about it. It's kind of shocking. But I think I'm the right person to tell this story. Thankfully, Bruce agrees. I mean, he's seen the movie, I think, 12 times now and really loves the film. Uh,
Wow.
so it's been kind of a dream process, really. But now I'm putting the movie out into the world, which is always so fraught. It's always anxiety inducing. People are coming to fewer and fewer movies. Um, Again, people seem to treat film as blood sport, right? I don't know if they write viciously about novels or music albums as they do movies for some reason. People have
Yeah.
real, love of movies and are easily offended, I suppose. Let's just say
No,
film ends up being what folks want, but it will be unexpected unless you know this chapter in Bruce's life.
well, it's interesting when you were talking about after you get the job, you've got to direct it, you've got to shoot it, and so on and so forth, and go through this process of now bringing it into the world. But you failed to mention the part that I feel would be the most daunting, but also the one that people are applauding you for, which is you've got to cast it. You've got to find an actor who can play probably one of the most recognizable and also like self-identifiable, like people see themselves in Bruce Springsteen
Oh
more than
yeah,
the
oh
artist.
yeah, and
Right?
have ownership, like I said, over Bruce.
Yeah, and have like, yeah, you said territorial ownership. But I appreciate in the sense of with Jeremy Allen White, this was also one of those situations where it came quickly, yes, quickly, move quickly. So talk about getting Jeremy to be your Bruce.
Well, it's daunting for Jeremy because in his illustrious career, Jeremy he'll play journalists and cops and lawyers and firefighters and who knows what else he'll end up playing. But only once do you get to play Bruce Springsteen, and
Mm,
knowing everything that comes with it, it's almost, as some people have said, I think it was the great writer and director Paul Schrader who said it's a fool's errand to make this film.
mm,
um, because so many people have ownership over Bruce, and it's such a delicate story and an unexpected story. But Jeremy had all the qualities I was looking for. He had a quiet intensity, a vulnerability. He shares Bruce's humility uh, and Bruce's kind of blue collar physicality, his swagger that I was looking for. He's a very physical performer. But what I didn't realize was how well he could sing and play guitar and play harmonica. It rather shocked me. I knew
mm.
he would be good and would get close, but this I think he's extraordinary in the part. And I think when you see him singing "Born to Run" and "Born in the USA," and then some of the quieter moments of Nebraska, it's a real tour de force and transformative performance. And we weren't going for mimicry or imitation in any way. We were going for finding Bruce's emotional truth, his essence, his spirit, more than a physical match. Even though Jeremy bears a striking resemblance to Bruce in '81 and '82, the same bone structure, eyes, all those sort of things. So I mean, I think the only person who could play Bruce at
Mm.
21 or 32, and I think he just does a tremendous job.
Yeah, and it's also really funny because you mentioned him earlier, but there's also another person who's intricately involved in this, who's also having to play very closely to someone intricately involved in the movie, and that's Jeremy Strong
Yes.
playing John Landau. Which also, by the way, was it just Strong and White on set because you got too many Jeremys and too many Johns?
Or I would call them, as I do with all of my films, I'd call them by their character's name.
Okay, good. Then you can keep it
Yeah,
straight. That's good.
yeah, yeah.
But I yeah, so that's another one where you've got to get that right as well. Specifically the relationship between the Bruce and the John, that intimate relationship, which at that time wasn't a 60-year relationship, but would become.
That's right. I'd worked with Jeremy Strong. He's a longtime pal. I'd worked with him on my film Black Mass that stars Johnny Depp as the gangster, Whitey Bulger, but I ended up cutting that sequence.
Mm,
I knew Jeremy to be an actor of great research, someone who's incredibly specific, someone who uh, I knew I had, of course, seen as Kendall Roy in Succession, seen as Roy Cohn in the Trump film, but you seem like a callous and cold, venal side of Jeremy, which he plays so brilliantly. But I wanted to see Jeremy differently. He's warm, he's compassionate. I knew he could brilliantly convey John Landau's intellect, his fierce loyalty, and his emotional intelligence, which grounds the film's heart in their complex relationship, because this is really the central relationship in the story. And it's a love story, which you don't often see with men. He's been by Bruce's side for 50 years, and as you see in the movie, he's his manager, but he's much more than that.
Mm.
Artistic collaborator, protector, father figure, part-time therapist who uh, really saved Bruce's life.
Yeah. No, that's actually the more powerful thing that I wanted to talk about it. And it's interesting when I look at it through your two leads of these two men who both are very diligent and I think hardworking and up until this point, mostly character actors, right?
Yes.
And both of them in different instances, Jeremy with The Bear and then Jeremy Strong with Succession, got catapulted into this like Bruce Springsteen level fame in some ways. And
It
I'm
totally
curious.
mirrors Bruce's ascent, no question.
Yeah. I'm curious if you talked to either one of them about that because they're kind of in the middle of it in the
Yes,
time when they're playing men who are past it. And if that sort of meta aspect informed what you see on screen.
it does. I have certainly with Jeremy Allen White, I
Mhm.
could see the parallels of someone who's been doing this for a long time, but who's now becoming a massive star. And the fact that Bruce, at this time in his life, was at a crossroads. He defied expectations to continue to chase the roar of arenas and number one hits, but really someone who has the courage to look inward and to take the path less taken. And that's what Jeremy White does here. Also, again, the bar is so high to play Bruce Springsteen, not only because he's a difficult character to inhabit, but because of what he means to so many people and what he inhabits for so many people and the ownership. So it's very daunting for Jeremy White. But I said to him, I said, listen, we're not making a film about Bruce Springsteen. We're making a film about a man who is one of the lowest chapters of his life, a neglected soul who is repairing himself through music. He just
Mm,
happens to be Bruce Springsteen. So relieve yourself of that pressure. I'm not sure if it did, but I think to some degree it might have.
mm,
Um, Jeremy, like Bruce, is self-critical, because he wants to do the very best he can. But I think that's what pushes him to the humbling process of embodying Bruce, playing as much as he did, playing harmonica, guitar, the voice lessons, the movement lessons to really get it right. As I said, Bruce has seen the movie now 12 times. He loves the film. He thinks his fans are going to really embrace it, and that's what means something to me.
yeah. The other thing I think is so crazy about this is when we get, as we sort of go through the film, for folks that are not you, like folks that are maybe me, who I'm like, I knew Born in the USA, but I didn't know
Sure.
like that Nebraska was this thing. And I didn't know that it was such a big deal that he did it, this kind of like stripped down album. And at that time in particular, and all of that, what's great about it is if you go into it like I did, you still get the crux of it, which was this is a man in a room with his guitar and his own trauma.
That's right.
At the end, you can get something beautiful. I'm curious for you when you were talking with Jeremy about that aspect of it, because that's the part that I think doesn't maybe get talked about it is the trauma of fame, like that part of Bruce, like his uncomfortableness with the fame. I'm curious how Jeremy approached that because I found that to be the most sort of like powerful when I was looking at him playing this character.
I mean, look, let's be honest. Especially now when your fame is amplified around the world in 15-second sound bites. I mean, Jeremy can't even walk down the street in Rome without having people clamor for him. I've just
Yeah.
been with him, or Berlin, or London. I mean, his fame is now international and growing. Um, Thankfully, I don't have to deal with even understanding what that's like. The pressures of being Bruce Springsteen or Jeremy Allen White or Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio.
Mm,
Here's what I can say. Bruce Springsteen, even today, feels a sense of guilt. He's discussed this publicly for no longer being like the people he grew up with.
mm,
Bruce Springsteen didn't have warm running water in his house until he was 18. He was incredibly poor, a cold and detached father who was cold and detached and an alcoholic because he was living with undiagnosed mental health issues, schizophrenia. So for Bruce to have to live with that his whole life and face that and have the courage to face that on top of being guilty about his fame, out of that comes Nebraska. And the film's narrow time frame, just a few months, reveals deeper truths about Bruce's lifelong struggles
Mm.
with identity, how honest and he can be in his work, his enduring relationship with Jon Landau, which we see captures mutual trust, a little bit of friction, profound respect. Um, I don't think it's something that people will expect because not many people, unless you're an ardent fan, know about Bruce's mental health battles, his struggles, lifelong struggles, and he's very public about still dealing with depression and still seeing therapists. So my hope is that if people can come into the movie thinking they're seeing a film about Bruce Springsteen, but leave thinking they're seeing a film about themselves, because we're all struggling in one way or another. We're not Bruce Springsteen, but we don't have that kind of fame or resources that he now has, but he certainly didn't start that way. And even as he was becoming a major star, he was at his absolute personal lowest while at his creative best. So
Mm.
there's hope for all of us.
Well, this is where I wanted to to sort of like take a minute before we got here, but you were very open both in the press notes and in a lot of the press talking about how this film has become the most personal one for you because it mirrors your own personal tragedies, which I just first of all, you could have gone through this whole press tour and never said any of that. So I appreciate you for sharing, the loss of your father a day before shooting starts and but now that you are now out into the world and it is coming on the other side of it. I'm curious how that is affecting you. Like now that you've had a bit of more distance from it and you can sort of let folks that haven't read the press notes know about the total truth of everything that's
Yeah. So as I mentioned, my father introduced me to Bruce Springsteen through Nebraska and had it found me at the right time. A lot of deep personal resonance. It's an album that I would listen to while I was writing my other films after Crazy Heart. And then to have him die the day before I started shooting, to infuse the movie with his spirit, was incredibly moving. Felt like a lot of responsibility. Um, but Jeremy White and Strong, and cast, Bruce Springsteen, the studio, all really supported me and showed me a great deal of love and kindness during this time. And then the last week of shooting the film, along with so many other people here in Los Angeles, I received the devastating news that my house was burning. And of course, like so many, we lost everything, all of our worldly possessions. But thankfully, my wife and daughters and pups were able to make it into a hotel where Bruce came to me and said, "Look, take your family, move them into my house. Stay there until you get on your feet," which we did. My daughter Stella's, whose guitar burned in the fire, Bruce replaced it with one of his. I mean, that's who Bruce Springsteen is. So, on the one hand, it's been such a tragic and quite frankly awful year, and then to have the film touch people the way that it has, brought me so close to Bruce Springsteen and this cast, has been a true gift. And I think that I suppose that's what life is, right? It gives so much and takes so much away. Um, that's what makes us human. But
Mm.
I hope I never have another experience like this, Jacqueline. I can assure you. But it's a very personal film for me, and because we are all touched by mental health struggles, people in my life close to me. I've had people now from the Telluride Film Festival, just audience members who've come to me, or in New York City from the New York Film Festival, who say to me, "Scott, my father never told me he loved me. My
Mm.
father never told me he was proud of me. I too never sat on my father's lap." What I'm realizing very sadly is that some of the themes that course through the movie are incredibly relatable, incredibly universal, and they touch people from all walks of life, all socioeconomic classes. Um, and that's a painful realization that having a relationship with your parents is incredibly complex, and I'm seeing that now more and more. And the fact that people will say to me, I wish my dad had seen this, because men are afraid to give voice to their pain, certain men of a certain generation, or if there's a stigma around getting help. So my hope is that if people say, geez, Bruce Springsteen, a global icon, if he can suffer like this and yet get the help that he needs, so can I.
That's so powerful, and I love that it's having that effect on audiences and folks. I mean, I definitely folks really, I think once they hear about your relationship to it, when they hear Bruce talk about it, they get it, but they can also get it just by watching it, which is great.
Good, I hope so.
Um,
More importantly, get it
More
from that
importantly,
and
yeah.
not hearing about it from me or Bruce Springsteen.
Exactly. We're gonna talk about some of your other stuff. Like I said, I love Crazy Heart.
Oh, thank you.
I was like,
Changed my life, that movie.
I obviously from actor to director to, continuing on. But I'm curious for you. It's not, and I wouldn't say this just because, it's a man with guitar or whatever,
Yeah.
but I feel that it's not just that a movie like Crazy Heart is something that says you can do the Bruce Springsteen movie.
Yeah.
I'd almost kind of say only the man that made Crazy Heart could do that one because of how much they're like they're like brothers that didn't grow up together, but like they meet later. Does that make sense? Like those two movies, they're so intricate, but then they're so different.
Yeah, that's that. Thank you, and I certainly appreciate your saying that. Look, it in some ways, many ways, it does feel like a companion piece to Crazy Heart. Both films are about a man at a reckoning point, artists confronting the distance between who they are and who the world thinks they are. Even though I invented Jeff Bridges' character, Bad Blake. So Bad Blake and Bruce Springsteen are very different figures, but each faces that same moment of reckoning. What do you do when the noise fades and you're left alone with yourself? Both films live in that silence, that sense of reckoning, and it's through the creative process, I think, where you see two men, Jeff Bridges' character and Jeremy White's Bruce Springsteen, who are able to find what makes them whole again, what makes them become the artist that they would become. And what connects the two is honesty. Crazy Heart was about stripping away the mythology of the outlaw musician in Jeff Bridges' character to find the man underneath. And Springsteen is, I hope, doing the same thing, except Bruce does it to himself. It's about facing the hollowness that can come from giant success and rediscovering meaning through simplicity. Both films reject artifice and spectacle, and they live very quietly in kind of raw human emotion. I shot Crazy Heart like a character study disguised as a music film,
Mhm.
intimate and restrained, focused on the process and the pain rather than the performance. And Springsteen, I think, takes that even further. It's not about the stage, it's about the room before the stage, the moment before the song is born. In that sense, it's a continuation of the same conversation. What does it cost to be an honest artist? We see that it cost Bruce a lot. It's incredibly painful for him to do the deep excavation work of digging down where it hurts the most. And it does the same thing for Jeff Bridges' character Bad Blake in trying to reconcile with his son and live a life without alcohol. Both films are about the truth just stripped bare, and both are really about what it's like when the music stops and you've got to face that quietude in the dark. Both men, Bad Blake, Jeff Bridges' character, and Bruce Springsteen, are both chasing redemption in that quiet. And I think that's what connects the two.
I love that. Also, two incredible music films.
Thank you.
I have to ask this just because there is the thing. If you could say something to Scott Cooper, the director of Crazy Heart,
Oh boy.
the
Wow.
director of Springsteen,
Yeah.
what would you say? And vice versa. What do you think that you should be listening to that version of
Uh,
about now?
oh. Well, I think it's interesting because, look, I've learned so much about not only the filmmaking process, um, since Crazy Art, my first film, although my style hasn't really changed. It's generally very quiet and minimalist and stark. Um, I think I look at Bruce Springsteen to have the courage of following his instincts and intuition and not chasing trends or what I think might sell or what I think might be most appealing to a wide audience. I try to personalize both my first film, Crazy Heart, and now. Um, and it really is. It's about, for me, making the film is not only make having me understand what the film's about, but also about myself. What have I learned from taking these journeys with both Bad Blake or with Bruce Springsteen, or the 3 movies I've made with Christian Bale, or my film with Johnny Depp about the gangster Whitey Bulger. I'm always learning something about myself, which is about being the most honest version of myself, the most truthful, someone who takes hopefully great artistic risks. Um, and it's interesting because one of my favorite directors is Stanley Kubrick, and he said, my films have all had varying critical reaction. It's subsequent critical reaction that settles the score. So, in other words,
That's
it's your films over time. And I've thankfully had a few films in which people have come to me and said, Scott, movies changed my life. Crazy Heart, I was able to confront my addiction. Soldiers who came back from Iraq and Afghanistan who saw Out of the Furnace and said, thank you for seeing us, seeing me. Native American community, upon seeing Hostiles, in which it's a journey of understanding and reconciliation from Christian Bale's character. And now this one, where people are saying, thank you, Scott. I hope that this can get loved ones who see it into therapy. Um, that says less about my films and much more about the power of cinema. And from Crazy Heart to Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere, I count myself as so incredibly fortunate and lucky to be able to tell the stories that I set out to tell, which are all very human stories.
that's super cool. You brought it to the one that I was definitely going to talk to you about, but I was going to do it a little bit differently because Out of the Furnace is a movie that's like this, but also Hostiles is a movie that's like this, and Black Mass and so many others. Who do you cast with? Because there's like first of all, that was like one of Timothy Chalamet's early movies before he was Mr. Call Me by Your Name and Mr. Marty Supreme. You
Jonathan
also
Majors,
have
is it
yeah, Jonathan Majors. You also
Jesse
have
Plemons?
Stephen
Yeah, my
yeah,
early
Jesse
movie.
Plemons,
Yeah.
even, like, names that we've seen before do other things, but then they just look incredible in yours, like Wes and, like, John Benjamin and just other great folks. So, yeah,
Oh,
I'd
thank
just
you.
be curious for you to talk a little bit about how you find actors for roles and how 'cause it clearly is something where you're not just going for the ones that they whatever, every Asian's got their guy right now. They're like, "Oh, see this guy." You're really looking for
I usually
people to the
avoid
part.
those, quite honestly.
I
Um,
I can tell.
well, look, before I became a film writer and director with Crazy Heart, I was an actor with an unremarkable career, but I love actors. I adore actors. I see a lot of movies. I have actors that I've long wanted to work with. So when I'm writing my screenplays, when I wrote Crazy Heart, I wrote it with Jeff Bridges in mind. And of course, I didn't know Jeff. And that can be very dangerous because so often, you write a movie for Brad Pitt or Daniel Day-Lewis or Jeff Bridges, you're not going to get them. I got lucky enough. So then when I wrote Out of the Furnace and my subsequent films, I wrote for actors that I greatly admired that I thought could bring my characters to life in ways that I could have only have dreamed. So I ended up writing 3 movies specifically for Christian Bale. Then you get lucky when you make a film like Hostiles and people audition for you like young Tim Chalamet, Timmy, or Jonathan Majors, Jesse Plemons auditioning for me for Black Mass, and then these guys go on to have such wonderful careers. Those 3 actors, among many others, are among the best actors of their generation. Um, John Benjamin's been around a long time, or Stephen Lang, or Wes Studi. So I remember these character actors, or David Krumholtz, who plays the record executive in my film, or Stephen Graham in the Springsteen film. Stephen Graham or Gabby Hoffman. These actors have been around for a very long time, and I've long admired them. So I just keep remembering these collection of actors and how they might work together in my cinematic universe. So I've just been incredibly lucky, Jacqueline, to have actors both who are incredibly experienced say yes, and younger actors like Timmy and John Majors and Jesse Plemons, who then go on to have such incredible careers. And I can't wait to get back on set again with whatever's next.
Also, let's be real, Timmy and Jesse, you might be seeing them a lot this season, so I hope it's a bit of a Hostiles reunion. If we can make
Oh,
that,
that's
like,
right. Yes.
photo, yeah, they're both kinda in it, so gotta make that photo happen, sir.
I don't know if I'm in it, but I know those two are going to be in it.
Girl, we'll discuss later. Have I'm gonna get you out of here. But last thing, you've already done a lot already, and you've done a lot of historical stuff. You've done a lot of wherever. Where's an unexpected place you want to go as a director that you haven't gotten to go yet? I'm just hoping you'll like randomly say a musical.
Ooh, that's a great question. Yes, I would love to make a musical. I would also love to make a comedy because there's not a lot of humor in my films, but I
I was gonna
love
say that's very shocking to me, sir. Nothing against
but
your
I
filmography.
but I love comedies, and I always like to surprise myself, and I like to be able to learn as a filmmaker. So those are the kind of genres that I would love to, along with like the noir, film noir, that I would love to explore. Should I get the chance?